This which I speak of needs to be cultivated in all of us. This feeling, this fire to serve others. It's not enough to sit at home anymore. It's not enough for us not to get together. And others felt it too. I want to read you something else. I don't often read in my videos. But this is a powerful thing from a Christian, a Protestant Christian. While women weep as they do now, I'll fight. While little children go hungry as they do now, I'll fight. While men go to prison, in and out, I'll fight. While there is a poor lost girl upon the street, I'll fight. While there remains one dark soul without the light of God, I'll fight. I'll fight to the very end.
Give, always give what you can, even if you are lost your lines in the sand. And dig, always dig a little deeper. Sometimes it's hard to be my brother's keeper.
Hey guys, I want to talk on a very important topic. I want to talk on that which we hope to see on the planet, that which we hope to fight for, that which burns inside many of us to see manifest within this world. Now, the whole point of everything I teach regarding spiritual practice, everything I've learned from other teachers who taught for the same reason, such as Jesus or Yeshua, such as Buddha, such as the writings of the Vedas, such as the yogis of Kriya, they were teaching us one simple thing: how to liberate ourselves from the suffering that can be liberated from. The suffering of the mind, of the carnal mind. The suffering of the actions of the negative aspect of our mind, which force others to suffer at our behest. It forces wars, it forces greed, it forces inequality. Constantly planting the seeds of suffering everywhere. But when we learn how to use ourselves, when we learn how to embrace the mind of Christ, when we learn how to move to the right hemisphere, then we liberate ourselves from suffering. Internal mental suffering goes, the lower mind takes a back seat, and the mind of Christ that can dwell within all of us comes to the forefront. Now, all across the world, we have people who want this, they yearn for it, but they spend far too much time away from the mind of Christ. And so the fire doesn't rise inside them. The fire for want for change. And that fire inside us that wants change, that wants to see the end of suffering. That is the beginning of the creation of all things that we require to end that suffering. Many of us are so focused on receiving spiritual knowledge, but we don't know where we're going with that. We just want to have more knowledge. We just want to be some sort of supreme being, perhaps, some of us. We hope to have psychedelic experiences and float around the room in a lotus position someday. We're sold a fake New Age spirituality, when truly the only religion and spirituality that matters is service to others. Even inside the mainstream religions, people often throw at me people who do not do good deeds, but proclaim Jesus to be the Son of God and their ultimate Saviour. And they say you are saved by faith alone. And I agree, faith saves you. You can't be a horrible person and do good deeds and expect it to balance it out. But you are also by no means saved by grace if you are not in some which way, shape or form performing service to others within your life in some degree, be it daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. You see, religion should not be built around the idea that your reward comes when you're dead, so you just be a good person now. It should be built around the idea that you fill yourself with the love that Christ had and you serve others. You help to raise them up, to bring them out of the darkness that many dwell within. And some are so innocent. Children, tiny children, and they suffer. And we wonder when we don't step in and stop what is happening, when we don't step in and stop these children from suffering, we wonder why people grow up to be thieves and murderers and rapists, when from their very earliest memory all they've known is suffering, whilst all around them, people with the ability to end it did not end it, because they had no faith and did not dare share to end the suffering of those children. And those who claim to have faith, but dare not take the leap, surely they offend God. If you proclaim that you know God, you have to understand that He will provide for you when you walk in faith. Sometimes it'll be dark in your life, sometimes it'll be bright. Such is the nature of our world. The sun does rise, the sun does set, and so it is inside of yourself. But if we persist on only worshipping and not caring for others, if we persist on constantly seeking that which will benefit us and not others, if we seek to benefit ourselves, which we should, seek to have full functionality of our body, then we should have an end goal. And that end goal should be then to not be like a Buddha sitting under a tree, is my perspective. It's needed, we need teachers. Don't take offense if you are a teacher and you spend all day in meditation. But from my perspective, and having lived here where I've seen this suffering, we all are needed to go out into the world and bring people back and explain. And as we do, this financial system which has gotten out of control, which forces those children to suffer from birth, men, women and children, and animals, this financial monster which is forcing them to suffer from birth, can begin to change. But it can't change unless there is manpower behind it. It can't change when people don't focus on changing it. It can't change when we are all just simply constantly, persistently focused on ourselves. It's all well said and done that love and light will end the problems of the planet. But love and light without action is a concept and a waste. You've got to be ready to fight with your body, with your heart, with your soul, with everything you've got. Got to fight. I decided to make this video because I received a message from a friend of mine a few weeks ago. And that message made me realize that the same thing that makes me want to fight exists in others. That same thing that makes me want to fight begins the journey of creating the end of suffering and the infrastructures that can end it. And what religion do we want? Do we truly want just a religion where we never help others because it's fine because we're saved by grace alone? Are we really going to be such a weak and heartless species to say, I'm saved, I don't need to help anybody? Because you're wrong. You do. Most of my audience are from a Christian background. Those who are from Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu. I'm sorry I don't focus as much energy there. I'm raised in a Christian country. Predominantly all around me was Christianity. And as a young man addicted to drugs, stumbling out of pubs and clubs, I still remember the empty, hollow feeling of seeing every church with black windows luring and leering over all of these drunken, lost souls. No outreach, no help, nothing. Not accessible. And I think it's time that these outlets become accessible. But they need to lead by example. And many do, but not enough. The Bible itself says the following: those who consider themselves religious and yet do not keep a tight rein on their tongues deceive themselves, and their religion is worthless. Religion that God, our Father, accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Everything I teach is in there, in that phrase, that paragraph. Serve those who can't look after themselves. Serve the broken. Serve the innocent. Serve the weak. Stop creating your own problems that stop you from serving. Many in the West become such a victim over such silly things, and even 3 months here, or a month here, would blow your perception open, and you would understand. You would understand why you are needed, and why you must hurry in healing yourself, and why you must sit patiently in meditation and take no thought. Why you must obey the instructions that Christ left you, and practice the single eye, and see God face to face in the place they call Peniel. And find union with your 7 energy centers, just as Moses did when he found the 7 sisters. And when you do that, you can serve without the chatter of your brain taking you off this way or that way, or telling you you're not good enough, or feeling sorry for yourself, or being a victim, or being an addict. I've been all of those things. And when you get rid of them, you see how pointless they are. I'm not playing down getting rid of them. It takes time. But at least you can set a goal to do it. Because then you can do things all day long that fill your heart with such joy you have no choice but to be happy. You have no choice but to love God. And no choice but to love life. This which I speak of needs to be cultivated in all of us. This feeling, this fire to serve others. It's not enough to sit at home anymore. It's not enough for us not to get together. And others felt it too. I want to read you something else. I don't often read in my videos. But this is a powerful thing from a Christian, a Protestant Christian. While women weep as they do now, I'll fight. While little children go hungry as they do now, I'll fight. While men go to prison, in and out, I'll fight. While there is a poor lost girl upon the street, I'll fight. While there remains one dark soul without the light of God, I'll fight. I'll fight to the very end. That was William Booth, who started the Salvation Army. Now, I don't agree with everything the Salvation Army stands for. They have a lot of intolerant beliefs, but they did a lot of good in this world as well. And it began with the fire in a man's heart who saw a necessity to serve others. And we must fight. I must fight, you must fight. When you wake up on a morning and you feel a bit tired and you feel like, oh, maybe I'll just stay in bed today and feel sorry for myself, like I used to. Or when you think you can't quite go that extra yard, but then you decide to push through the negative voice in your head telling you that you can't do it. And you find a child locked in a room for 20 years, as I did the other week. I was exhausted when I went there. But as soon as I found him, I was lifted. All my energetic problems were gone. Because you forget yourself in the service to others. And when you forget yourself, you take no thought for the morrow. And when you take no thought for your life as Jesus instructed, you become a servant of God. Because you walk a path of absolute faith. And it doesn't have to look like what I do. It can be at home, it can be creating something, inventing something, caring for your children, filling your children with so much love that they can't help but grow to be children who understand the Christ that can dwell within all of us. It can be anything, as long as it's outside of yourself. It can even be the pursuit of a massive company, to build a huge company and to have the wealth and riches you need from there. Because if your final goal is to embrace the mind of Christ, then only good can come from that. But if you want to do it so you can have the big mansion and the big car, these are not the things that we should focus on. They're not the things we should pollute the world with. They're not the things we should pollute our children with. I will continue for the rest of my life to grow what I have begun to grow here. And I might even move into other countries around me. I might move to other parts of the world. Because I'm aiming big. But one thing that will always differ with what we do is that whilst we are fighting, I will only accept people into my inner circle of trust and into my infrastructure who want to fight as well. People who will fight without a big salary. People who will fight because it's the right thing to do because their life is focused on serving God. People who are happy to come and live in basic accommodation wherever it is in the world, to manage things, to help grow things where there's not a local person to do so. People who are happy to have their food provided for, happy that they've got the faith that they don't need to be banking money, and happy that they can push forward serving God. This will be the difference between myself and, unfortunately, entities that began beautifully but have become runaway entities sometimes, such as I mentioned, the Salvation Army. Wonderful work, but they also have a lot of wealth that sits dormant every day, which is a faithless act unto itself. Because when you have dormant wealth, you're storing tunics. And when you have 2 tunics, you're supposed to give one to the poor, not store more, so as you can accumulate more. Right now, the suffering happens. Right now, if you can solve the suffering, solve it. Take no thought for tomorrow. Because when you do, your lack of faith forces another day of suffering for men, women, and children all over the world. So what do we want to see? We want to see a religion that's based upon improving the world around us. I don't care what happens when I die. I don't care. Right now, people are suffering. People often tell me, but because I don't say this, I don't say that, I'm in trouble when I die. This is not the weak sort of God I want to spend eternity with anywhere. But I know this is not the God that I serve. The God that I serve understands that He placed this fire in my heart. So the religion should be based upon here, now, changing this world. It should be based upon love. It should be based upon spirituality. And it should have fear, should have no place in it whatsoever. There's no fear in God's love. I just want to see a planet that's fair, where the innocent have what they need, where the sick have what they need, and where those with the potential to help the innocent, the poor, the sick, the destitute, have the true knowledge of how their body works to be able to do so. There's no point seeking knowledge about this, knowledge about this, knowledge about this, when you don't even know the true workings of your own human body. And if you want to know how to find out the true workings of this, you just follow the instructions and seek first the kingdom within you. All else is given unto you from there. It's really that simple. I've built all I built with a very simple process. Sit quietly, preferably for me in nature. Absorb the natural light and the messages God has to bring to me there. And then bring those back into the digital media. That's the process. But to absorb it, you've got to take more thought. And that's where your fight begins. And then once that fight's won, you start the other fight. Start caring for the children, the men, the women, the animals, who suffer at the hands of the thinking mind of human beings and the systems of inequality it has created. God bless, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon, www.patreon.com/featherstail, and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light, guys. See you soon.